Welcome to Bedtime Stories. The Old Gray Hen. "Oh dear," said the old gray hen, "what a life this is. Up in the morning at the break of day, in answer to the summons of that crowing rooster. Scratch all the forenoon for worms. Sit on a nest and leave a beautiful egg there. And in half an hour along comes somebody and takes the egg, and I never see it again. Then every spring I am put on a lot of eggs that I never saw before, and am supposed to sit there until a brood of chickens are hatched out, and then for weeks I have to scratch for them as well as for myself. I don't see anything in this sort of life, and I propose to change it until it is more to my liking, and more as the life of such a fine hen as I am ought to be." Old Daddy Gander happened along just as the gray hen finished talking to herself. "What's the trouble this morning?" he asked. "Why all this sputtering and spluttering? One would think that the whole barnyard had turned upside down, and the corn had all fallen off into the sky." "There's matter enough," said Gray Hen. "What have we fowls to live for? I scratch, and you waddle, and you waddle, and I scratch, and what does it all amount to? Something has got to be done, and if no one else will do it, why, I shall. Things are going to be different with me. I guess I'll keep on as I am," said old Daddy Gander as he waddled away. "I might make them worse than they are, and they are not so bad anyway." "Good morning, Gray Hen," said Madam Duck. "What a fine day we are going to have. The water will be nice and warm for my ducklings, and I can give them a good swim in the pond." "It is neither a good morning, nor is it going to be a fine day. And as for swimming in the pond, if I had to mother a lot of children with as homely feet as your brood has, I would want to keep them in the water all the time so that no one would see them." "What a mean disposition Gray Hen has," said Madam Duck to the turkey gobbler as she went on her way to the pond. "I tried to be agreeable to her, and she insulted me and spoke so unkindly of my children that I felt quite like crying. I almost wish that she had been a little more unkind," said the gobbler, "for I have never seen a duck crying, and I imagine it might be an almost sight. Perhaps Gray Hen needs some of my good advice, and I will walk over shortly and see her." But the old gobbler was saved his trouble, for in a few minutes he saw Gray Hen coming down the path toward him. As she came up to him, he said, "What a miserable feeling morning this, Mrs. Hen. My feathers will none of them lie straight, and every worm that I have tasted for breakfast has been bitter." "You are quite right," said Gray Hen. "It is just like all the mornings recently, uncomfortable and disagreeable, and there does not seem to be any promise of anything better." "You are quite right," said the gobbler. "What the gander and the duck see in the present to be so satisfied with I don't understand. And as to the future, I don't know why we should expect any more of that than the past." "I have always felt," said Gray Hen, "that you, Mr. Gobbler, never got half your desserts in this barnyard. Everybody seems to think that the rooster, because he crows every morning at sunup, is the wisest bird in the yard. But as for me, I have always held you in greater esteem, and have often spoken of the nobility of your looks, and the regal way in which you walk about the place. If I had any voice in the matter, I should suggest that you be recognized as superior to the rooster. But You see, the hens have nothing to say, although someday I feel sure that it will be different. You are very kind, said the gobbler, and I feel as you do, while I have no wish to be ruler of the yard, that the hens should have more to say. You should at least have independence and do as you like. Oh, I have determined on that already, said Grey Hen, and she told him how she had decided to lay no more eggs and to scratch as little as she had to. Well, said the gobbler, I must be off and see that none of those turkey hens get so far into the wood that they cannot find their way back again. I certainly gave the kind of advice she wanted, he said, when he had got out of her hearing. And that was easier than getting into an argument. And besides that, discontented people and animals are always so much more comfortable if they think others are just as unhappy as they are. Old Grey Hen, however, was as good as her word. She stopped laying eggs, and the amount of gravel that she scratched was scarcely worth mentioning. She stole worms from the younger chickens, who were too polite to punish a hen so old as she was, and, altogether, she became a general nuisance to all the rest of the barnyard flock. They could not protect themselves, but Farmer Johnson, walking through the yard one day, noticed that the old Grey Hen's toes had grown to a most unusual length. I guess she doesn't do much scratching, he said as he passed along. And I suspect she doesn't lay many eggs. I must ask Mother about it when I get back to the house. No, said Mother Johnson, when he asked her. I haven't found an egg in Grey Hen's nest for a month or more. She won't pay to winter then, said Farmer Johnson. We had better eat her. And the following Sunday, when Farmer Johnson sat down for dinner, they brought a big platter of steaming fricassee to the table, and that was the end of Old Grey Hen. A day or two after, when the gobbler happened to meet Madam Duck, she said, I hear that Grey Hen has left us. Yes, said the gobbler, and I hope she is happier than she was here, but her contentment was greatest when others were distressed. Rest well and wake up refreshed for a brand new day. Good night.